How do vegetables get the party started?
How?
With a fat beat.
Sorry, that took me a second.
Hungry Squared, bringing you the best food talk anywhere.
Welcome to the Hungry Square podcast, where the brain and belly meet. I'm Sharon from the Wasatch Cooking Guide.
And I'm Winter from theredparty.com. This week, we're talking about canning.
And harvest.
Let's talk about it.
Looking for Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.
Sharon, how's your week been? What'd you eat this week?
Oh, man. There was a few things that I ate this week. But I went to one of my favorite Italian places.
Oh, yeah?
It's tiny and little. And it's in a neighborhood. And like across the street, there's houses. It's awesome. And I used to be able to walk there from my old place, but now I have to drive there and it's kind of sad. But I had my favorite Caesar salad.
Oh, what makes it so special? Because I will tell you this right now, Caesar salad is good, but it's not like I'm going to go out and get a Caesar salad.
Oh, this is special.
Okay, why is it special?
They make their croutons and they make their dressing and they use anchovies.
Ah, anchovies.
Yes.
Like real anchovies.
Real anchovies. And that sounds disgusting, but that's what gives it the salty, savory flavor.
Well, that's what a traditional Caesar salad has, is anchovies.
Yes. It's awesome.
Do they make it at tableside?
They don't, but depending on where you're sitting in the restaurant, because it's very small and intimate, you can watch them make it.
Oh, okay. So it was really good.
Oh,
And that's all
delicious.
you had, just the Caesar salad?
Well, I mean, I had a salmon risotto and that was really good. But, yeah, I go there for the food. Everything that I've had there is really good. But the Caesar salad is phenomenal.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent.
yeah.
Caesar salad. Yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm like, Caesar salad. Yeah.
Oh, it was so
Okay,
delicious.
I'm going to believe you on that, but I'm just like,
shavings of aged Parmesan, the buttery, crunchy croutons that they make in-house. Oh, it's delicious.
I love a good homemade crouton. Okay, well.
Homemade dressing,
Yeah.
and it's on point. It's perfect.
Okay, well, we'll have to try it out sometime.
It's a well-rounded dish. Go to Pernod in Salt Lake City if you're ever around.
Oh, okay. I've never been there. I will have to try that.
What did you eat this week?
Well, we had to venture out of our comfort zone today.
Oh, what happened?
So we had this place that we loved. It was a Hawaiian barbecue place. And then because it's a family run business, they closed down because part of the family was moving to California. And so they shut down. I was bummed. They just didn't have enough help. And so I was like, this is the best teriyaki pork and chicken. And yeah, it was very sad. And so we've been in a little bit of a drought here for me and Lee. And so we saw a new little place open up called the Coconut.
The Coconut.
Coconut Hawaiian food. And I think it's, or something like that. Coconut. I just remembered coconut with K's.
Oh, nice.
Coconut. Okay. So we gave it a try today and it was pretty darn good. And I have to say the thing that stood out was their garlic shrimp.
Oh, tell me about the garlic shrimp.
So I don't know what the deal was. Okay, the shrimp was probably just quickly pan fried, but it was the sauce, the garlic sauce that they put on top of it. Like there were chunks of garlic, obviously, but the garlic, it wasn't I'm sure there was some butter. I'm not totally sure, but it had a slightly acidic flavor to it. Like it was a vinegar base. And so it was perfect. It was so good. And the shrimp were done perfectly, not overdone. You know how that happens.
Yeah.
So, but it was just yummy. And our daughter Lucy polished off 2 shrimp by herself. And we're like, you jerk. That was our shrimp.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're raising a little girl with a good palate.
Yeah. So, but she had garlic all over her face. It was pretty darn cute, but she loved it. And I think she was bummed that we introduced it to her at the very end because she
wanted more.
She wanted more.
Yeah.
She's like, more. We're like, have some rice.
There is no more. We ate it.
Yes, sorry. So that's what I ate, and I thought it was delicious. We're gonna go back there and try a couple of other things because they ran out of one of their things, and I was a little bummed about that. There were some short ribs.
Ooh, I love short ribs.
Right, right, yeah. So that's what I ate, and it was wonderful.
Nice.
And now for the main course.
Well, let's get down to our topic at hand. Harvest and canning.
I know. So
it's fall.
It is fall. It is set in, and it feels like fall. Sweater weather.
It is sweater weather. I wake up and it's like high 50s, low 60s. It's nice.
Yeah, and then it doesn't get too hot during the day.
Nope.
It's perfect. And Sharon, our house actually smells quite lovely right now.
It does. I wish we had smell-o-vision so everybody could smell the roasting peppers.
The roasting peppers and the roasting tomatoes, because we planted a garden this year.
Ooh,
Well,
is this your garden harvest that you're roasting?
Yes. Well, not we acquired a couple of the peppers from somebody else, but the tomatoes are from our garden. Our lovely friends that are, I think we've talked about them before. My friend that is a vegan, she started all of these tomatoes, and she gave us a few of them. And so we have a little square foot garden off to the side of our home, and it's been fun. Like, we have 8 tomato plants, and it's going out of control.
Nice.
It's awesome.
Are they still growing?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we've had this little garden. It's a little plot, and it works really well, and it does really well. And those starts are awesome because they're heirloom tomatoes. So
they're delicious.
Yeah, they're really good.
Before you came into the room this evening, Lee let me sneak a tomato out of the oven.
Oh, they're so good, aren't they? Which one did you have?
A yellow one.
Oh my gosh, they're so sweet. I know. They're so good. And I'm going to make that into a roasted tomato pesto later. So
I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty tasty. So have you planted a garden this year?
Well, I harvested a garden this year. My friend. Yeah.
Come again?
So I helped my friend move.
Okay.
We helped them load up their trailer to move. And as we were saying goodbye to their house for the last time, they're going to spend one last night in the house. And it was kind of sad, but it's really exciting because their new house is so awesome and the neighborhood's really cute.
Yeah.
So they're definitely moving up, but it was sad to say goodbye to their old house. And then as we were walking around, we're like, oh, you planted a garden. We forgot that you planted this garden, and it's growing and it's really beautiful.
And the flourishing.
It's flourishing. The tomatoes are just coming out of their ears. And she just goes, why don't you just pick off all the tomato plants?
So that's what you did? You
Yes.
just like gathered armfuls of tomatoes.
Yes. I was wearing workout clothes because we're helping them move.
Yeah.
And so I am wearing this huge baggy t-shirt because, it's kind of flowy. I'm wearing my like kind of stretchy yoga pants type thing and a flowy t-shirt. And so I just gathered everything up in my t-shirt and then
brilliant.
had some other people gather some too. And then we found some bags to put them all in.
Oh my gosh.
So I didn't grow a garden. Somebody else grew a garden for me.
But you harvested somebody's garden. That is perfect.
And we barely finished them. And that was about a month ago.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. When I was younger, my dad wanted to grow a garden. And he thought it was a brilliant idea. He came home from a conference. He was an accountant at the time. And he came home from a conference in Hawaii and told us, hey, kids, we're going to grow a garden. I've got these seeds right here. This is perfect idea for us, And then he started talking about being self-reliant and having food storage and like putting vegetables up for the winter and all these things. And my mom's kind of like, oh, what are these magic seeds you have? Like he's getting her in on it, and he hasn't really told her. He told us all at the same time. So then he makes this big production out of it. And we said, well, what are we going to grow, Dad? And like, we were guessing, like, is it tomatoes? And he's like, nope. I decided we're only going to grow one plant because we were busy, and he didn't want to devote a whole bunch of time to tending this garden. So we're going to grow one plant, and we were going to grow sugarcane.
What? Are you serious?
Yes, that's totally my dad. He's just such a prankster. And so
he didn't even wait, did he tell you that you were growing sugar cane?
yes, but like he built it up because like our families, like our extended family had beautiful gardens and stuff. And we're like, we can't do that. It's too hard. And, you know, our neighbors had really pretty gardens, but my parents were like, oh, we're just so busy. You know, they're both working and things like that. And they just don't have time to tend this garden. And the kids are, you know, we were too little or whatever. I don't know, to really
My goodness.
figure it out on our own. So my dad decided, then he like lays the bomb on us and he's like, we're growing sugar cane.
That is totally awesome. I support that, Dad.
Yeah. So we did too. And over the course of however long it was a bit of time, we grew actual sugar cane.
Like, how thick did it get? It gets
So-
pretty thick, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we had these shoots that were like 2 inches around, maybe 2 to 3 inches ish. And we had a few shoots. And I don't know how to process sugar cane.
Yeah, I
Like,
thought.
what do? Do you melt it down? Like, I don't know how that happens. I know that's where sugar comes from.
I
don't know what happens.
I don't know either. I know I can chew on it, and because I did that as a kid.
Sure.
Chewed on a
That's-
little sugar cane action. It was delicious.
That's what we did as well.
Oh, really? Is that what you're like?
We
That's all I know how to
also
do.
took the shoots out of the ground and you could put them right back. So that was kind of fun. You just take it out and then you put it right back. I'm sure it was dead at that point. I have no idea. But we would take it out and then we would sword fight with it
Oh, okay. Well,
and
of course.
pretend they were lightsabers.
That totally makes sense.
So we lightsaber fought with the sugar cane and chewed on it. And that was the extent of the garden when I was little.
That's pretty funny. And that's brilliant. Now, you know, so in my research for this topic about gardens, I think maybe that would have been fun to grow sugar cane in these things called victory gardens. Have you ever heard of victory gardens, Sharon?
Oh yeah, they were like war gardens, weren't they?
Yeah, basically. So during the wars here in the United States, and actually in probably various other locations, other countries that were involved in the World War I, World War II, the country's governments, in order to help the troops, basically, because they needed to save food as well to send to the troops. They encouraged people to, in order to be patriotic almost, is to like plant their own garden and use that food as part of their their rations. You know, that's part of their food that they're putting on their table. And that, in a sense, indirectly benefits the people on the front.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And one of my favorite things, I just thought it was cool. They call them victory gardens. And one of the things that came about because of these victory gardens, the popularity of a couple of vegetables, Swiss chard, for example,
What?
and kohlrabi came around because they were so easy to grow. And so that's how they kind of shot up in popularity there for a little bit. So yeah.
Wow.
Who knew?
That's really cool.
Swiss chard and kohlrabi. I don't think I've ever had kohlrabi before. Have you?
Yeah, I have actually.
You have?
Mhm.
I think
It's a
it's
funky lettuce type bulb thing.
that's
Well, yeah, it's bulby and
has shoots. Is it kind of
has shoots. It's green, bulby shoots. I don't know.
it's impressive.
I haven't had it in a dish. I've just like,
You've just seen it like at the grocery
I've
store or
tasted
whatever.
it.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So they were able to there were so many of these gardens that were planted, and people that were, if they lived in a home, they could plant a garden, get rid of some of their lawn, whatever happens to be, and plant a garden. People that lived in the city, they actually encouraged them to plant their own little victory garden in like window boxes too.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. And I kind of like the idea of just having the ability to go get your food. Like, that's one fun thing about our garden is that we go out and water the plants, and Lucy picks all the little cherry tomatoes that are on her, on our plants, and that's part of her dinner. Yep. Right away.
Nice.
She pops in her mouth. They're like candy to her. So
Nice.
yeah, so that was kind of a fun little thing about gardening. And then, of course, what do you do with your stuff that you pick. You can it.
Well, yeah.
So Sharon, I think you know that I lived in Russia for a time.
Yes.
And I kind of love all the propaganda posters that they have, the Russian propaganda posters.
That's real life scary.
I know, but still, so talking about these victory gardens, the United States government had kind of propaganda posters also.
Did they?
Encouraging people to plant victory gardens to help with the war effort. And so I just want to have you guys picture this. There's a mason jar that says, "Can all you can. It's a real war job." And here's another there's a lady with her arms are laden with canned vegetables and stuff. And she says, "Of course I can. I'm patriotic as can be, and ration points won't worry me."
Oh dear.
It's pretty awesome. So
that's great.
Come on, dig on for victory.
Hey.
These are slogans that I can stand by. I'm going to put these in the show notes so you guys can check them out because they are awesome.
And print them up and put them in your kitchen.
I know, right? Because have your victory garden, people. Have your victory garden. So, okay, well, so this is a nice segue because what do you do with your harvested goods and produce?
Well, as you said, I think I can.
Yes, you can. You can them. And this part was so fun because it was the French. The French again, Sharon.
The French.
Yay! So
they gave us so much.
They did give us so much. And well, and it actually it stems back to wars too. You know, wars actually it creates a lot of invention because you have dire circumstances and
canning.
Yes.
Canning's an invention.
Yes, of a war.
Oh.
Of wars, actually. The Napoleonic Wars, namely.
Oh.
Yes, they were struggling to keep their militia fed and healthy, right? Because you need healthy people to fight a war.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's easy to kill sick guys.
Yeah.
Malnourished guys.
Yeah. And actually, they were really running into a problem of being able to only fight during the summer and fall months. Think about it. Like, that's when you had fresh food.
Oh.
There was nothing like canning back in this time. So this is around 1799 or so. And they were struggling with making sure that there was large quantities of food in order to feed these militiamen, right? So the French government's like, we need to solve this problem. So we're going to offer cash.
What?
Yep.
What'd they do?
12,000 francs. A reward of 12,000 francs for the person that could develop a cheap and effective method of preserving food in large quantities. So this kind of came out like 1799, and there was a particular gentleman, a Frenchman, Nicolas Appert, and it's Appert. He was a confectioner, and he was like, I'm going to win that money. Well, I don't know what he was thinking, but I bet he was like, I'm going to win that money because he was an experimenter and an inventor. And so he finally figured out in about 1809, it took him quite a while to figure this out, several years to observe this, but he figured out that if you cooked food in a jar and it wouldn't leak, that food stayed much better. Like it stayed a lot longer than if it was just out in the open. He didn't know why, right?
Interesting.
No clue. But he was able to prove that, I could seal something in this jar, apply a lot of heat to it for a long period of time, and the food would essentially stay good a lot longer. And so he won the prize. In 1810, he was awarded the prize, and he, once again, he didn't still understand this whole pasteurization type of a thing, because the way he did it, so pasteurization, there's a little bit of a difference with that you don't have to do it for as long as he did it. He would do it for hours so that it would change the flavor of the food sometimes. So
it was gross food.
Yeah. But it was food. It was food that was still good. It hadn't spoiled. So that's kind of the beginnings of canning, was this 12,000 franc reward for somebody that could help the French militia out. It was so interesting.
Nice.
And then it goes on. There's people start doing different canning methods with actual like tin cans or that type of thing. So that's a totally different ballgame. But at the beginning, it was these wide mouth glass jars that they would seal up with some a cork that they would vise on and then have a little bit of wax. He'd wrap some, what is it called? Like a heavy canvas around it to protect the bottle and then put it in the water, this boiling water for hours. Have you ever canned something and let it sit in the water for hours?
No, I have not.
Yeah. So once again, you can imagine how much that probably destroyed the flavor or any sort of appeal of the food. and probably the nutritional value of the food too. So anyway, with that prize money, he was pretty excited because he ended up building a factory in order to kind of keep developing this and canning food and that type of thing. Unfortunately, he didn't really get to see it working because it was razed, sadly, during when the Allied soldiers invaded France in 1814.
Ah.
I know, bummer, huh? But that's where it came from. The canning process started because of the Napoleonic Wars.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
well, interestingly, so that was around 1800 that he won that prize money.
Yeah.
Around the middle of the 1800s, mid 1800s, a man by the name of John Landis Mason created the mason jar.
Oh.
Yes.
So did he, let's talk about this because the mason jar is everybody knows that
it's synonymous with canning and all things decorative.
Yes,
now.
right now. So,
but we'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah, let's keep talking about this because this is very interesting because I saw some of the bottles that Nicholas Appert used and those do not look at all user-friendly.
No, so some of the research that I did on like canning bottles before mason jars, like sometimes they would use like champagne bottles.
Yeah, that's what I saw too.
And they'd have like I saw somebody was doing a lime and cheese seal, which sounds utterly gross to me that they're sealing their food in with lime and cheese. But
the cheese would probably give a pretty decent seal.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So that's what they were using. I don't know what kind of seal that Appert was using though, but so it was interesting. But around between 1857 and 1858, John Mason patented a screw top jar that we know today as the mason jar.
With this type of like
with the
actual lid with the seal thing.
Yes. And so there's been some updates to the jar, like the lids and things like that. But essentially, the mason jar, the glass itself, kind of looks the same as when he invented it.
Really?
Yeah. So that's kind of cool.
Were they generally, do you know if they were generally they were probably wide mouth?
So they didn't have the wide mouth at first. It was just it was a wider mouth than, say, a champagne bottle.
Yes.
So you've seen the regular mason jars. There's a couple of varieties. There's just the regular mouth, and then they have an actual quote unquote wide mouth that doesn't taper at the top at all. So the Kilner jars, those are popular in the UK. Our UK friends might know the Kilner jar. Those were invented in 1842. In 1884, the Ball brothers.
Yes. Oh, I am very familiar with the Ball.
Yes.
Brand as well.
So the Ball brothers they discovered that the mason jar patent had expired.
Oh.
Yeah. So in those days, like they were jumping on that.
I was about to say
fast.
Yeah.
So they began manufacturing canning jars in their glassworks. And
same design, right? I'm assuming very close.
Similar design. So around that time, since he didn't apply for a patent renewal, John Mason lost his patent. And because a court declared in 1868 that John Mason had known that there were other people that were manufacturing quote unquote mason jars, and that had improved upon the design.
Oh, yes.
So he had known about it and hadn't applied for a continuation basically of his patent or tried to patent any of the design improvements that people had made. So he lost his patent and he actually died penniless.
Oh,
Kind of sad.
really?
Yeah. And that's why you see like the Kerr brand today and the Ball brand both have the words Mason on their jars.
What?
Yeah, because he lost his patent.
No way.
Yeah, sad.
So they just it's. Oh, really?
But that's why we call it a mason jar, because he's the one that invented it.
Right.
So it's pretty cool though, because they made some designs with like the lids when mason jars first came out. Instead of that, so they had that screw thread, but they also had one that was a wire bail. So you see the old ones that have a lever.
Oh, yes, yes.
Like the wire is attached to the lid and it's just a wire little lever that flips up and down.
Yes.
To
And isn't there a
attach.
rubber gasket type of a situation there too?
Yes. So that's the wire bail jar, also called a lightning fruit jar,
Okay.
because it's lightning fast to seal it.
Oh.
Yeah, interesting. But essentially from the 1800s, like the late 1800s, mason jar really hasn't changed that much.
Yeah.
You're still using those same types of lids that have the seal, the gasket that's embedded in the seal.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still using that same
Ring. The
separate ring. So it's kind of cool.
Wow, that's some good job, Mr. Mason, for designing a good bottle.
Good product. Great
Yeah.
design that's lasted.
A long time, but I'm sad that he didn't renew his patent. Darn it.
Yes. So the most popular selling mason jars are, of course, the Ball jars.
Mm-hmm.
And Kerr is also quite popular, but Ball is a little bit more popular. And the Jardin Company today sells those. They've got the rights to sell the Ball jars.
Uh-huh.
And one of their breakout years for mason jar sales was 2013.
Oh, why? Wait.
When we've experienced the resurgence of the mason jar. And you see it all over Pinterest. You see it on Facebook.
Yes. Why?
You see it.
Why in 2013?
Well,
Was that?
the amount of mason jars sold in 2013, in just the jars that they sold alone, in that year, if you laid them end to end, they'd go 90%. So all the way of 90% around the earth. The circumference of the earth, it would cover at 90% if you laid them end to end in 2013.
So the mason jar really a
And
resurgence.
They've sold even more since then.
Oh,
so
I'm
you
sure.
could circle the earth multiple times with the amount that people have been buying these mason jars.
So it's not
for
because
their weddings, for their
Okay.
reunions, for their kitchenware.
So it's not because they're all into canning.
No. It's because if you put the words mason jar into Pinterest, your Pinterest feed will totally change. So don't do that. Mine has. And I've had to remove so many things and it's so frustrating. But you get all of these tutorials about 21 ways to use mason jars in your kitchen that aren't canning.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, it's all storage.
Yeah.
So put a label on it and it's a spice jar.
Oh.
Put a label on it and you can put baking soda in it. Put a straw in it and it's a glass.
It's really quite a lovely, well-designed jar. It's simple
It's simple and it's beautiful.
and it functions well for canning and also for Pinterest. And you know what? I actually did a quick search because I was like, 2013, that's interesting. I wonder why 2013 of all the years. So I was hoping there would be a correlation, but Pinterest came about in March of 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how it took a while for it to gain
Yeah,
popularity?
because you had to have an invitation at the beginning.
Yeah.
And
So
things
I'm
like
wondering if 2013 was like when it was full upswing of Pinterest, because you're exactly right. People would get on there and they wanted to see what other people were doing with their mason jars.
that. Well, and it became a really popular thing for the wedding industry.
Yes.
Alone. Huge in the wedding industry because people wanted to be different.
Yes.
And they wanted to be, because people always want to be unique and they want weddings and parties like that to express themselves.
Right.
And say, hey, we're not stuffy and we're not formal and we're drinking out of mason jars.
Yeah. That was a very huge trend. I think it's starting to die down a little bit. So
well, hopefully, but people are making mason jar chandeliers and
yeah.
oh my gosh, all of the mason jars, toothbrush holders, and
that's expensive too. Well, and I guess you can pick some up at like garage sales and stuff like that.
oh sure, and that's something that usually everybody has at least a couple of.
Yeah.
Because you've canned yourself, your neighbor has given you some freezer jam. Think, your grandma's got them that she's not using under her kitchen sink, whatever. And there's such a variety of uses for them. They're just multifunctional. It's a multitasker.
It is. It's a multitasker. That's
so
interesting.
I approve of the mason jar in that respect. But if I have to drink out of a mason jar at somebody's wedding,
again,
it's becoming just like everybody else. So it's not unique anymore. And it's not cheap.
Oh, they're not cheap.
No, but I will say the mason jars are a heck of a lot cheaper than what has been popular in Europe to can with.
What are those?
In Europe and Australia, they're using the Weck jars.
How do you spell Weck?
W-E-C-K.
For all those who haven't seen those before.
So they're gorgeous. They're more of a streamlined design. They don't use the lid, the screw top. They just have the streamlined jar. It is a glass lid, and there is a rubber gasket that you put in between them.
Okay.
And when you can, that seal on that gasket, there's a little lip on it, like a little tongue. And so it kind of points down so you can tell it's sealed.
Oh, okay.
And then they have just two little clamps that go on either side of it.
Oh.
So it just clamps down. And then once you've heat sealed it, you can take those clamps off.
Oh, and they're good to go.
Okay, so you can just store it without the clamps on.
Oh, okay. Well, so what are you talking about in price then? Because I can buy a good quart size, like a 12-pack of quart size jars for $12.
Yeah, it's about $1 a jar.
Yeah.
Typically. Sometimes you can get a deal for like $10.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
So Weck jars for a dozen typically run about $65.
For a dozen?
Yep.
Oh.
And they make them in multiple sizes. There are a little bit more of a size choice with the Weck jars. They've got multiple sizes instead of just your half pint, your pint, and your quart.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, I have seen gallon size mason jars.
Whoa.
I have one at home.
Okay.
I inherited it from someone.
I was about to say, I was like, we might have to talk about that later.
It's pretty cool.
Okay, but I have a quick question then about these Weck jars, because I actually have never really seen one. I think I've seen a picture, but you don't have to replace the rubber gasket, correct?
According to the website, you do not. I have read some canning websites that suggest that you do. So,
on occasion or like every single time?
Every single time.
Oh,
but
really?
I'm not really seeing available online on Weck
those separate rubber gaskets.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
because, I mean, that's the thing with the mason jar. Also, you have to replace your...
You have to replace your lids. You shouldn't be using, if you're for canning purposes.
Yes, for canning purposes.
For canning purposes, you should not reuse your mason jar lid.
Yes.
So, and that's why the lids come, you can just buy a little package of lids.
Exactly.
It's like $1 or something.
So that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, maybe it's because you need to replace the rubber gasket on the Weck jars and they're more expensive or something like that. But if they're saying that you don't necessarily have to.
I mean, it's tempered glass, but so is the mason jar. So I'm not really sure, other than as far as a design aspect, why they're so spendy.
It's just a little bit nicer. Does anybody have Weck jars that are out there? What do you guys use to can or drink your fancy hipster drinks out of?
And if you don't can, just know that it's easy to make some freezer jam.
Oh, yeah.
Freezer jam can be made in like 5 minutes. So if you see a deal on berries in the next little while here, which you should be because it's into summer, beginning of fall, it's super easy to make some freezer jam.
Do it. So I'm just curious to see what brand everybody uses. Did you inherit your jars or did you pick them up somewhere? I have never inherited them. I've always just purchased them at the store because I've
only inherited that giant one. The rest of them I bought too.
Yeah. So I'm just curious to see what everybody else does because it's canning season. Everybody look at your jar, send us a quick Facebook message. Hey, this is what I use. This is what I'm doing.
Take a jar selfie.
Yeah. Actually, one of our listeners, Christy, was actually canning the other day while listening to our podcast. So
awesome.
Hey, Christy. But yeah, I didn't actually notice what brand she's using. So I'll have to ask her when I see her next. So that was a really interesting topic. I think there's so much more we could talk about canning. So maybe we'll have a part 2 at some point in time, maybe next fall. Who knows?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Our podcast today is brought to you by our awesome and food-loving sponsors. Our first sponsor today is Creminelli Fine Meats.
Yay.
Winter, have you had Creminelli?
Oh, yeah, you better. I believe I have.
Yeah.
They are so good. I actually, in fact, had some recently, some of their new slice charcuterie line. And
it's so good.
It's so good and it's really convenient. And I have to admit, I need the convenience sometimes. I just need it to be already done and I just need to pull it out and make a sandwich for myself. So it's pretty sweet that way.
I have also had some of their charcuterie line recently. I had some salami and I brought it to a meeting at work.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Now that's a fancy treat for a meeting at work.
It is a fancy treat for a meeting at work, but everybody loved it.
Yeah, I bet they did.
And it was perfect. We usually have lunch during this meeting. It's a 2-hour meeting.
Oh.
Yeah.
You saved the day.
So, but due to budget cuts, we couldn't have lunch this last time. And so my coworker that co-leads this meeting with me, she brought in these to die for homemade zucchini brownies.
Oh.
And I brought the charcuterie trays from Creminelli.
Awesome.
And it was like we had lunch and it was so good.
Probably wasn't too heavy.
Oh, it was really light. And it was just perfect for that midday slump that we were having because it was right during lunch hour.
Yeah, and their salami is so good. They have so many fun flavors. I just am like, they are awesome.
Oh, my favorite is the wild boar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they tell you where the meats are sourced from on the packaging, so that's really fun. Their wild boar comes from wild Texas boars.
Oh.
So that's pretty fun. And they have several salamis that I'm dying to try and some that I have tried.
Yeah.
They've got one that's made with High West whiskey and that's pretty good. It pairs really well with several different types of cheese.
That is awesome. I'm so excited to have some more Creminelli meads.
I'm excited to partner with Creminelli.
Yay, we are too.
And our listeners get 10% off their order when they go to creminelli.com. All they have to do is enter the discount code HungrySquared2016
2016
and get 10% off.
Woohoo! That's really awesome. It's all on their salamis. They have, you can get all sorts of things there. So go check them out. They have been so generous to partner with us. We're excited that we're hanging out with them.
Thanks, Creminelli. And our next sponsor is Craftsy.com.
Yay! Do you guys know what Craftsy is?
Yeah.
It's an online purveyor of classes. It's kind of and so obviously from the name, it's Craftsy. So there's a lot of craft classes, but they are starting to get more and more of their cooking and food classes and cake decorating classes. And I am super stoked. I just discovered the one that I've been dying to take. I'm so excited. It's by Peter Reinhardt and he is a master bread maker.
Ooh, bread?
Seriously. Yeah. You know how in the movie Ratatouille,
oh, I love that movie.
They talk about bread and how it's got to have a good crackle to it when you squish it. And It's got to be light and airy, but also like got good chew. I think of Peter Reinhardt because I've taken a couple of like in-person classes and they always reference Peter Reinhardt and his techniques. So I'm excited that he's teaching this class.
So he's the master bread maker.
He is the master bread maker, and you get to watch these HD quality videos, and there's 10 of them for this particular one anyway. Anywhere, anytime access. And then there's specific downloadable instructions on how to do things, and you kind of get you can actually see, they really get in close so you can see what he's doing, because like how to shape a boulet or something like that. They show you how to do all of that stuff up and close. And then they have a virtual classroom too. So Peter will actually answer your questions.
Oh, that's cool.
When if you have anything that you've like, I'm stuck on this thing, I don't know how to do this, can you kind of explain it a little bit better? So it's really neat the way Craftsy classes are designed. They have high quality, well recorded videos, including some stuff that you can download for yourself so you have references for later.
Yeah, I like that you get to keep the content.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have access to these amazing teachers. And this is just one of them. I just happen to be super excited about this one. So, but this is kind of cool because Craftsy is partnering with us, so that if you go to craftsy.com/hungry squared, you will get half off your first class. That is just, it's super fun. And so the classes range between $19.99 up to $39.99. So, I mean, you can take a quality class and learn how to bake artisan bread for like $10. I'm just saying, that's awesome.
You could also learn photography, quilting, spinning.
Yeah. All sorts of things. They just have so many cool classes. So if cooking's not your thing and you just happen to be hanging out on our podcast just because you find us amusing, thanks.
Yay.
There's tons of other things that you can go learn at craftsy.com. So once again, craftsy.com/hungry squared, and you get half off your first class. So thanks again, Craftsy.
Thanks, Craftsy. Let's have a food fight.
Food fight, food fight, food fight, food fight. It's winter.
This is the segment where you can email us with your relationship questions relating to food. You can email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com.
Disclaimer, we are in no way professional relationship experts, but you should totally listen to us anyway. If you need professional help, please seek it out.
Food fight, the food fight segment of the show. Here we go.
Winter, who's this week's question from?
Okay. This one is a doozy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I have maybe some strong opinions about this already.
What?
When I read this, and you may too. I feel like you may have some strong opinions about this.
Lay it on me.
Okay. So this is what it says. By the way, you guys, thanks so much for writing in. We really appreciate that. If you have a question though, seriously, we would love to hear from you. We'll eventually get to your question. So bring it on. So this one says, Dear Sharon and Winter, a group of us at work were gifted a jar of salsa. We're each gifted a jar of salsa from a coworker. There's a hot debate in the office on correct etiquette of whether we keep the jar or give the jar back. There were 10 of us she gave them to. I know what I would do. And she put in parentheses, I'd keep it, but I wanted to hear from you. What are your thoughts? And she signed it. Sincerely, no takebacks.
Seriously, and I agree with you. There are no takebacks.
Oh, so Sharon has a very strong opinion about this.
I do. I am so tired of hearing this debate, and I hear it in so many circles. But people, a gift is a gift. You just can't go around and gloop a glop of jam into your buddy's hand and say, hey, Merry Christmas, man. That's not how it works. If you can't give the gift without putting it in a container and you don't want to give away that container, then you have no business giving that gift. And that's right. I said gloop a glop of jam. Don't gloop.
So when you say gloop a glop of jam, I just got this picture of, what is it called? It's the Adam Sandler movie. Where the grandma gives him
the meatballs, the wedding singer, because that's how she pays him. Yeah. I'm just saying that you're not
a meatball.
A senile 90-year-old woman. Okay. And not to bash on our 90-year-old listeners. I hope that you're listening.
Hey.
And I don't think that you're senile. But nobody gloops a glop of jam. You have to put that in a container if you want to gift that.
That's true. Okay, well,
And the container is part of the gift. It's really tacky, and it's not the same as saying, save the wrapping paper, I'm going to reuse it, or save the gift bag. It's totally not the same thing. It is not.
okay, I feel like I've hit a nerve here. Miss
Winter, what's your opinion?
You know, I'm going to say that I would probably agree with you because when I give a gift of a jam or something, I expect it to go out into the world and be out in the world.
Yes, be out.
And I'm always a little surprised when I get it back, but that's just me. And I usually do the small jars. They're the little pint-sized ones. So they're very cheap.
Yes.
So, but I'm going to play devil's advocate, Sharon.
Oh,
What if they gave this summer salsa in a Weck jar?
okay. Then you're a high roller. And nobody gives a Weck jar away. And if you give a Weck jar away, I can guarantee you are in a different tax bracket than I am. Different tax bracket. And you know, I have had some generous friends in different tax brackets. So you go ahead and be generous. But just know, I'm not giving your Weck jar back. It's my Weck jar. Because it's the gift that keeps on giving.
It is.
I will eat your salsa. I will eat your jam. I will eat your peaches, whatever it is. And then when I see your jar on my shelf, I'll be like, oh, man, that was so generous of them. And now I'm using that jar to put in, because I saw it on Pinterest, my salad for work. You know, that's how that works.
It's the gift that keeps on giving. Okay, well, I feel like we mic drop that. I think we're done.
Nobody gives it back. And I think like that's, I mean, why are you giving it back? Are you saying give me more? That's kind of demanding.
Well, and you can there's other ways that you can get more jam.
Make it yourself.
Make it yourself.
Buy new lids. Make it yourself.
Or just drop a ton of hints like, man, that jam was so good. Man, that jam was so good. Okay, that's pretty tacky too. Just kidding. Don't
Just
do
keep
that.
your jar.
Just keep your jar. Okay, I think that's the consensus. Do you agree with us? Are you I want my jar back type of a person?
If you are, we want to hear from you and set you straight.
Or if you need to set us straight, we'd love to hear from you too. At
But I'm right.
hungrysquared@gmail.com. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us today for our show. You can find us at hungrysquared.com, on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music. Please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play Music, and share our podcast with other food nerds.
Oh my gosh, when you guys share this podcast, it just you share the food love, okay? And just you're going to wave your nerd flag, okay?
And it warms our hearts when we see how many downloads we're getting.
Yeah, it's pretty fun actually because it's like, oh, other people are talking about canning and talking about giving back jars and stuff. So we want to hear about that kind of stuff. So thank you so much for listening. We think you guys are pretty neato.
We do. Thanks, man. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hungry squared, yeah, hungry squared.